Manchester United 3, Leicester 0. My goodness me, Manchester United actually winning games. Can you believe this? And scoring goals whilst doing so. Oh, what a way to sign off for Ruud van Nistelrooy in his final game as interim head coach of Manchester United. And what an enjoyable watch, to be honest with you. An enjoyable watch, which is rare for us, isn't it? Enjoyable, not too much to kind of worry and think about. Goals from Bruno Fernandes, 2 goals from Bruno Fernandes. I don't know if the second one has that still been actually given to him. I wasn't actually, I didn't see that just yet. Also a goal from Alejandro Garnacho as well, which I'm really glad considering all the noise that's been surrounding him over the last few weeks, all the discourse on it as well. And when it comes to Ruud van Nistelrooy, I mean, huge thanks to him and also huge congratulations to him, really. I mean, not to sense that I know people are like, standards on the floor. Ruud van Nistelrooy, you're praising him for winning football matches, but it's already been established that's not a given at Manchester United recently, is it? So, no, huge credit to him. Very happy with that today. And whilst we don't really move anywhere in the league, we go to a 0, a neutral goal difference. And on top of that, we're in that conversation now. We've got some big games coming up in November after the international break and in December. Of course, this is the last international break until March? I think it is now, February, March, something like that. And Ruud van Nistelrooy's left us in the best way possible, hasn't he, really? Again, I feel like I'm repeating myself over and over and over again, but steadied the ship. That's what he's done. He has steadied the ship, and I think he deserves a huge amount of credit for that. But this is the full-time view where members can call in. They can have their say. If you do wish to become a member, you can do so. Links in the video description. It's also pinned in the chat. And if you are a member, you're going, well, I am one. How do I call in, Owen? All you have to do is go to the United View YouTube page, and you go over to the community tab, and you'll see the link there. You can click there. Go into StreamYard, call in, have your say, give us your thoughts on the matches and all that fun stuff too. Let's get into the calls. Let's begin with Amorim. Amorim, what are your thoughts on Ruud van Nistelrooy remaining undefeated in his time as interim head coach?
Yeah, let's not get too carried away. It was a good performance of him over the 4 games. It reminded me similar to the Carrick era, so I'm nothing too much to read. I think it showed more about the players in terms of how some of them were quite suppressed. Maybe suppressed is probably the wrong word, but suppressed is probably the right word for me. Some players like Casemiro and Bruno in particular, that's the first time I've seen them play with a bit of freedom, especially Bruno now. So there's a lot more questions than answers for me, actually, about some of these players going forward. But overall, the game it's such a nice feeling to have, whereby I didn't have to worry about the game beforehand. Usually, at the early part of the season, before we play a random team like Leicester or Brentford or whoever it may be, I would be worried whether we would win the game or lose the game. But these games, at least Bruno sort of dealt with my anxiety. I didn't fear that we would get thrashed or it would be a mockery of a game. I just didn't know whether we would win or draw. So credit to Ruud on that point.
No, you're right. And I think it's worth pointing out because we've had these kind of games at home, particularly actually over the last year or so, which go, okay, but we'll win today. And then we don't. Like it's a draw or we lose. And you know what all of the discussion and discourse is going to be like for the next week or so. But actually now, thinking about this, the media narrative now, because we're going into an international break after undefeated on our last 4 with a new head coach. Are we actually now heading into a period where for the next couple of weeks, it's actually going to be some quite sort of, positive talk about Manchester United because it's not on the back of defeats. There is a new head coach coming in. There's a new era. And is there something to actually be a little bit optimistic about for once?
I think there is. And there's a couple of points to be optimistic about. One of the things, it's not the obvious one that people are not talking about. And I think you alluded to towards the end of the stream is that if you look at the league table now, I know we're 13th. I think we've got 15 points, but 4th spot is only 4 points away, which is mad when you think how shit we've been this season. I know people say, well, you're 13th and that's 4th. There's 4 points, but 4 points is just 1 win and a draw, and you're there. So I feel like that doesn't get talked about a lot. That this is where you got to give credit to Ineos. So maybe they should have pulled the trigger sooner, but it was either now to sack the manager or after Christmas. Imagine if they sacked him after Christmas. I think it would have been too far. We would have been like 15th, and that gap would have been too much. But we have got a chance to finish in Europe, even potentially top 4. I don't know about top 4, but we've got that the chance. So I'm optimistic, and obviously so that's one positive, that the gap between 4th and 13th is not as big as I thought it would be. And then obviously the other point you mentioned is the manager coming in. It'll be interesting to see now what he does in terms of the backroom staff. Obviously,
Yeah.
I don't know what the situation is going to be about Ruud. He said 2 years, but I don't know. Maybe Amorim will say, "Well, no, thank you for your service, but no, thank you." So that is positive, and it'll be interesting. For me, those are the 2 positives that will hopefully dictate the narrative of the Man United conversation during the international break.
Yeah, I mean, and it's funny you mentioned that too when it comes to the, about what's going to come next, because there is still this feeling of, well, we don't really kind of know, you know what I mean? Because obviously it looks like we're going to be changing shape, and there's still this element of we don't really trust these players, so who knows what's going to happen. But considering we've got these kind of like, again, big games coming up in November and December, just how do you think it is going to go? Or is it just entirely unpredictable at this point with the change of system and the players?
If we continue with Erik ten Hag, it would have been like a painful December, especially when we play against Liverpool. I can't remember, Liverpool's near Arsenal, teams
City
like that.
way.
Yeah, City way. It would have been horror shows. But with Erik ten Hag not here, a new manager coming in, he'll bring his staff energy. The players know they have to perform. If they believe they want to have a future at Manchester United, they have to perform. So I'm not sure. Well, I don't think it'll be a horror show, but I don't think it'll be like straight wins either. What I will say is I think we'll compete. I think these players will be competitive. Whether that means it results in a draw or a win, I don't know.
Yeah. What do you make of Alejandro Garnacho as well today? Came on, got his goal. Obviously been a lot of talk around him over the last few days. Where do you sit on all of that discussion about him? Are people being too harsh on a young player?
I think too harsh on a young player, and he should not have been playing the so many games. And again, our fan base is, I don't think that all of them are, but most of them are quite delusional. KG being one of them. We seem to be forgetting that if Rashford was doing his job, or Anthony were doing their job, Garnacho would have been a sub player. He would have been appearing for the last 20 minutes. But because they've been so shit, he's had to come in and take the heat and play 30 games in a season, which you would not expect a player like that to be playing. My analogy to Garnacho is, I don't think he's a top class player. I think Mainu technically is better. Mainu and Ahmad are probably technically better than Garnacho, but what Garnacho does, he's like an impact player. He's the sort of player you bring in to change a game if the game's stalemate. He's my analogy to say someone when you have a United like Giggs towards the last stage of his career, you bring him on to make an impact of the game or change the direction of a game. So I think it's totally unfair, and a certain member, ex-United UE member, making that comment about him, it was disgraceful. It was just disgusting, to be honest with you. So he'll have my support, and I hope he's not a world-class player, but he has my support as a Man United player.
And Ahmad also as well today gets the assist for Bruno. Where do you stand on the both of them at the moment? Obviously, Ahmad, I think it would have been stunning had he not played today, and he kind of carried on his form. But also, Bruno's starting to score goals now. Suddenly, found a bit of form.
This is a sickening thing. Do you not think this is quite? Remember, this is our captain, by the way. I don't rate Bruno as a captain. I made my mind up. I hope Amorim changes the captaincy. That's my view. But the fact that he's now able to be more potent, play with a bit more freedom, scoring goals. Where was that in the early part of the season? Where was that last season? I can't. I don't remember seeing that Bruno at all. So is it down to the manager who was suppressing him, or is it down to him because he just did not like Erik ten Hag? I don't think we'll never know the answer. I know he said publicly, Owen, that he apologized to Erik ten Hag, but I think it's been quite deceiving about that. If he really was apologetic, the way to apologize is to put those types of performances when he was manager. So, I've got my suspicions about Bruno, if I'm honest.
Interesting. Big up, Amanor. Appreciate you as always calling in. We've got over 400 people watching. If you haven't already, click the like button. Be sure to subscribe as well. Bottom right-hand corner. The Manchecutioner says, I won't be nice like Amanor if we want to talk about that issue, so it's best I don't. I don't call in. Or Jamaica also says backhanded compliments as well. And the Braids also says, yeah, there was a light KG stray involved in that one too, wasn't it? Let's see actually if we've got any quotes, because I do want to talk a lot about Ruud coming out of this game, because I think and it's going to be interesting to see how the season does play out and how it does progress from here, actually, because depending on if Manchester United, let's say United end up finishing in top 4, right? I know that we're 13th at the moment. You say, Owen, don't even talk about that. Don't even really focus on that or anything like that. But it's maybe worth considering a little bit, isn't it? That if we were to finish in the top 4, you would look at this period of the season, wouldn't you, and say it's a really crucial period, a really crucial time period that Ruud had to get through and again steady the ship. And I think he deserves a huge amount of credit for that. I really do. Karam says Faz is an absolute disgrace. The only thing Garnacho can be critiqued for is that he didn't Bob Holly slap him. If you know, the Bob Holly slap is a hell of a reference. A hell of a reference. Starlord also says my man of the match, Ugarte. You're right. I think I mentioned this. I forget which show it was. I think it was a morning show. It was the day of the Fenerbahce game, which makes sense because Flex would have been here. He'd have been in Turkey, and you can probably go back and find it. Is some of the people in the chat or some of the people in the comments were saying Ugarte might be our worst signing ever. That's what was said at the time. And this isn't like point scoring going back of like, I told you so, I told you so. Just my general thought process at the time was, that is a mad thing to say about someone that has started, I think at that point, like once or twice. And the other parts of that were like 10 or 15 minutes cameos or something. And I thought we can't say that one, because the one start he had or a couple of the appearances he's made, he might have looked a bit dodgy coming into a new league. Bloody hell. What are we doing when it comes to that? And now, it's like, and so that's why I say with like people like with Xerxes, all right, cool. Like if you don't think he's going to make it, don't make it, but it's still very, very, very early days, and we'll see. And that's why I push back on the Garnacho stuff. I know Garnacho's been at United a lot longer, but we really do, I think, need to get out of this mindset of. And I think maybe it stems from because we have had people at United that have been at the club for like 6 or 7 years and they've not been good and they've been on big contracts. So we're just like, they're rubbish. But we do have this kind of thing of where it's like, particularly with a young player, they have a couple of bad games and then they are just they're like, oh, they're rubbish. They're never going to be successful. They're never going to be this. They should be mid-table at best, blah, blah, blah. And you go, whoa. Like, we've got to be a bit careful when it comes to that one. And I was saying with Ugarte, like, again, Ugarte, just come into the Premier League, didn't have a pre-season all summer. There could have been discussions about really how much Erik ten Hag, did he really want him or didn't he want him? Where did he fit into the system? What have you? But I think with Ugarte as well. But this is the way I really pushed back on that Ugarte one, because legitimately his stats did speak for itself. When he had like the most interceptions in Liga last season, he didn't play every game as well. But he had most interceptions, or was it Jules one? Basically tackles. Had most in Liga last season. Season prior, had the most in the Portuguese league. He had, I think, the second most across Europe. The only person that had more was João Palhinha, went to Bayern Munich. So you knew what kind of player he was going to be. So when he came in and they're like, his passing's a bit off, you go, oh, yeah, because that's not what he is, obviously. So I think that should just, once again, not that it matters, because it will continue to be how it is. This is how it is nowadays. But just, you have to, with certain players, you have to give them time. Now, you don't have to give them forever. As they always say, the Omar Barada 2-season rule. Cool. After 2 seasons, you know what you get. Look at Mason Mount at the moment. You know what's happening with Mason Mount at the moment with the injuries, and you've kind of seen enough. But after a couple of starts and a couple of substitute appearances, that's wild. And that goes back to the point scoring stuff I mentioned on the match view. The desire to be right shouldn't outweigh the desire to see Manchester United or the players succeed. That should always be, the desire to be right should be way, way lower than the desire to see Manchester United succeed. And it kind of, I think, gets a bit lost involved in all of that. Let's go to another call. Let's go to GJE. What are your thoughts on Ruud's send-off today?
Yeah, I mean, it's good. It's good to just get 3 points in the bag. To be honest, yeah, I actually thought for once, watching United, it was a very exciting, game. But can I say always, to be frank, because this game wasn't on TV, how I was trying to watch it, allegedly it was going off and on. It was a bit choppy, so it was a bit choppy. But from what I could see, it was very exciting to watch. Like, but it's just frustrating that why do they do this when the manager goes? It's like the manager goes and you get this like interim new manager bounce, and then they start playing like this. Like, why do they do this?
Well,
Like, why can't we?
maybe that's
Yeah.
because people are pointing. They're saying, well, Ahmad was playing. Ten Hag didn't play Ahmad that much, and like with Ugarte, he was maybe a bit unsure on Ugarte. Did he want him? Is it a case of that? Casemiro as well. He kind of give up on Casemiro a little bit. Is it the players that were kind of lost under Ten Hag, maybe that were kind of delivering?
Yeah, it's possibly that, but I don't understand how Ten Hag got to that position where, because when you think about it, even though he might have not wanted those players, there are still players that came under his regime. So it's a whole new squad. You've got in, and he still had a chunk of players that he wanted himself that have not been performing. So it's a bit strange that he couldn't get the best. He couldn't get the best out of them. But this whole situation makes me think like I actually wish this sounds unfortunate, but to be frank, Eric did get paid out, so I guess it's not too bad. But I wish after the Spurs game they've gotten rid of him sooner, because if you look at the table right now, do you know we're like 4 points off third? How is that even possible? Like, it's such a weird Premier League table, and you start thinking like, I don't know why Ineos, maybe I guess Ineos really wanted to get Amorim in before they decided to make that decision, but a part of me does feel like maybe they should have done it sooner so that Ruud can just be caretaker manager for the period as they worked on the Amorim deal, and maybe things would change. Because I guess I'm still frustrated that we lost to Spurs at home 3-0 and we lost to West Ham away. Like, those two results for me were just unforgivable. But going to today's game, it was good to just get the 3 goals in the bag. It's good to see us scoring goals, playing free flowing football. It was good to see Ahmad play well. It was good to see Bruno play well, actually, because
Yeah.
Bruno, it was good to see Bruno get the goals, the assists, and yeah, it was just a nice game to watch. But it's Leicester, so a part of me is a bit like, well, we'll see, what happens, because in the Europa game that we played, we weren't that great. So, I guess now moving on is just to focus on Amorim, and I'm just excited to see what Amorim can do with this team.
Yeah. How do you think that's going to go? I mean, considering we're looking at probably a change of shape, which players do you think are going to fit? Which ones don't you think are going to fit? How are you feeling?
I said it even before. I think I'm very excited for Ahmed under this new manager. Actually, can see Ahmed playing as one of the forward, like three in the forward line. I can see him playing in that position. The only thing about it is that I do think the wing back position. To be honest, Dalot, I don't know what's going on with Dalot, man. You think Dalot right now would
Yeah.
be kicking on and playing consistently. So I guess where my concern is, if Amorim was to come in and play the 3-4 sort of three formation, is who will be the wing backs? How would that work? So yeah, so I'm a bit. That's where my concern is. But I think we'll be fine with the forward line. I think we have enough centre backs to cover for 3, and I think it can actually work. But I don't know who the wing backs would be. I think Mazraoui would be great. I mean, Mazraoui, he's very consistent, and he gives that persona of someone that could really follow instructions and he can get the job done. But I don't know about Dalot. That's why I'm a bit concerned. But Amarim did kind of come out and say something like he said something along the lines of, like, I mean, he's trying to say that it's not going to be the same at United. So a part of me does wonder, is he going to stick to that philosophy with the 3 at the back, or would he adjust? I actually do not know. So this is more of a rhetorical question.
Yeah, I
I'm
mean,
unsure.
hopefully he doesn't
I
do
don't know what to
the
expect.
Ten Hag thing when he goes, "I'm not going
Yeah,
to
that's
play.
what
I'm
I'm
not going to
worried
play
about.
Ajax
Yeah,
football."
yeah, I
United, you
am
go,
worried
"That's what
about
you hired
that.
for."
Yeah, I feel like if he does come and he decides to change, I do feel like a lot of the fan base might just have their eyebrows raised, just
Yeah.
questioning like what's going on here. So, but personally, I would love to see him just stick to his philosophy and implement it. So yeah, that's what I hope. But Owen, I have a question for you. What do you think will happen to like the new backroom stuff, like with Ruud and some of the Hark and all of that. Like, what do you think will happen to that? Because
Yeah. I think Ruud's probably going to go. I mentioned this before. I think Amorim will bring in his own people, and I think I think it should be up to Amorim basically. You know, if Amorim says I want to keep Ruud, then by all means keep him. I think that Ineos should give him the most tools they can possibly to succeed. I kind of just feel like today actually that the way it ended today 3-0. That's almost like the perfect send off, really, isn't it? You know what I mean? It's like actually there's no need to kind of muddy the water here a little bit. You steadied the ship. Got some good results. He looks like a manager, like him, how he stood on the touchline with his, his jacket and his turtleneck. He looks way more suited to that than when he's in the backroom staff and the tracksuits and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? So I'm a bit
100%
actually,
agree.
I think he should probably go. And actually today would be the perfect send off for that. What do you think?
Yeah, it would be great because I don't want all this situation where, we muddy the waters and we get bad results and we start looking at Ruud a bit funny. So yeah, I do agree. I think it should just be a clean slate for everyone, and we just need to tear it all up. If we're getting rid of Eric, because unfortunately, this is what some people, I guess, with hindsight, they were right. We're saying after that FA Cup win in the summer was just, if you're getting a new board, you're getting new players, etc. Get rid of the manager, just tear it all up. So I am feeling that way. Like, it's just best to just start from the beginning again. This is a new start. Yes, Ineos might have gotten it wrong keeping Eric. I was someone that was on the line of, let's see, let's give Eric a chance to maybe right his wrongs. But after the Spurs game, that's when I was fully like, yeah, this manager has to. I think it's done. But I'm excited to see what happens in the future. I mean, we have some interesting games coming up. So hopefully Amorim can just kick on. So yeah, this is great. Thanks.
And just finally, very quickly, what do you make of Garnacho? Obviously, a lot of people talking about him. Gets his goal today. Where do you stand on some of the criticism about him?
I think Garnacho is still very young, and I feel like personally he's not ready to be a starter. It's not Garnacho's fault. It's not his fault that he's in a team where the older professionals are not playing to the standard. Garnacho should be someone that's coming off the bench helping the team, and I think he's more effective that way. I feel like when he starts games, he kind of goes missing and he loses the ball, and he's just, I don't know. There's that immaturity in his game when he starts games. But I feel like when you bring him on once, like, a team has been stretched, they're a bit knackered, their legs are a bit wobbly, and you bring on someone like Garnacho with his energy and he's running at them, I feel like you see a very good player come out. So I feel like it's just his immaturity and he needs time. He will grow into it. I think eventually I can see him becoming a starter. I'm not gonna be here to say he's gonna become this like super amazing world-class player. I would like to hope he will, but I feel like he just needs to keep coming off the bench, and eventually, hopefully, as he gets older and he gets a bit mature, then maybe he can become a very good starter for the team. But right now, for me, he's more of a bench player. Bring him off the bench and affect the game.
Yeah, I agree. Big up, GJE. Appreciate you. Good call, as always, calling in. Let's see what people are saying here in the chat at the moment. K-Flow says, facts, in a good team, Garnacho is coming from the bench. That's what I kind of saying before. I think everything always circles back to recruitment when it comes to Manchester United, and I think that's also one. You look at the money we've spent on people in wide positions. I mean, it was surprising last year. You forget, the season started, it was Anthony was the starting right-hand side player, and Garnacho ended up on the right-hand side. He's not even a right-hand sided player, and forced his way in. But that's also because Anthony was doing badly. I think that, you look at the successful Manchester United teams in the past, players that were 20 or 21 coming in, had a lot of good senior players that were also delivering. And the burden, I don't think, should be as high on some of the youngsters that it has been in the Man United team. And when you are through a difficult moment with those young players, the last thing we should be doing is turning our back on them and saying, that they're going to be this or they're not that or whatever. And it's not to say that you mollycoddle them and you never criticize them, because of course criticism is necessary and required, but it's that extreme writing them off that I just don't get. You can say, needs to work on his decision making, needs to be more consistent. We know that, but this as KG kind of says, Dan James was better, or he should be playing for Alaves, and whatever. It's like, come on, do we really need to go that? And maybe that's the kind of sensationalist day and age that we live in, right? You don't get attention unless you say something really outrageous. But To me, that doesn't make any sense at all. A couple of quotes here from Manchester United after the game. Bruno Fernandes says, it's a new era, a new manager means everything changes. What hasn't changed is that this club has to get back to where it belongs. He also said, Ruud van Nistelrooy loves the club. He loves the club. He wants to bring joy to the players. He brought everyone with a smile to the games. He just wanted us to enjoy it. We wanted to say goodbye as a manager of him properly because he did good things for us. Also, there was lots of people talking about how after the game, Bruno was spotted talking to Alejandro Garnacho. And he said, quote, Garnacho scored a banger, but didn't celebrate like he should because he thinks he's lost faith from some fans. I told him people will always moan, but lots of people like you and enjoy what you do. And I tell you, if that is, honestly, if that's how Garnacho feels because he feels he's lost the faith from some fans, that is such bullshit. And again, that's why you got to be careful with that kind of stuff because he's a young guy, he's a young player. Now, I get it. Again, you could say, well, plays for Man United, he's got to be more mentally strong than that. Sure. But they're all people at the end of the day. You know what I mean? And that's why I say, let's not completely just write him off or anything like that. It's ridiculous. And Bruno's right. Bruno's right to go to him and say that. People always moan. You will always have your critics. Again, especially with this day and age, we'll have people that will say things that they actually don't mean, but it's just, I want to get attention. And, ignore it and move on. I don't think you can doubt Alejandro Garnacho's quality or anything like that. He's an incredibly talented player and individual. Just keep going. That's it. Keep going. So big up to him. Also, Manuel Ugarte won 8 tackles against Leicester today. No Manchester United player since data records began have won more in a Premier League game. And I see, to be fair, I saw a lot of people saying that in the chat after the game or even afterwards, saying that Manuel Ugarte was everywhere today. And it's always interesting when you get a fact or, a stat to kind of back that up as well, isn't it? When you go, I tell you what, I felt like I just constantly saw Ugarte making tackle after tackle after tackle after tackle. And winning 8 tackles, and no Man United player has done that since data records began in the Premier League. Not bad, is it? Not bad. Winning tackles over and over again. And like I said, that's why you got to be careful about writing these people off, because that's what he was here to do. That's what he was brought in to do. That's what his stats were last season, of winning tackles. And also when it comes to Bruno Fernandes, of course, today, 250 appearances, 157 goals and assists during that period of time. Not a bad ratio for the Manchester United captain. But as he mentioned, all starts over again when it comes to Ruben Amorim coming through. So, yes, Amorim, I would assume, by the way, that we'll get the pictures and all that of him at Carrington tomorrow. I think that's what we kind of was suggesting, wasn't it? I think that's what it's going to be. So there you go. Guys. As I mentioned, it's a very short full-time view today. I know lots of people will be watching the game between Chelsea and Arsenal. So what I'm going to do, actually, I better have this switched on. I said what I was going to do. Considering that the delicate state that he's in, I can't believe he's actually doing it. But KG, the comedian, is doing a hate-along, Chelsea versus Arsenal. You will be redirected from this. You'll go straight over to his stream. So I said it was going to be a short one. I appreciate everyone that's tuned in. And we'll be live tomorrow morning. Flex and myself, 9 a.m. Red carpet will also be tomorrow with Flex, KG, myself, Saeed, Alice, and Adam will all be on discussing everything. And I guess if anything else happens, I suppose actually a good question is, I don't know what day it will be, but I would assume at some point there will be like a Ruben Amorim press conference, like, a Welcome to Manchester United one. I have no idea when that is. If that's set up, I don't know. So stay tuned for that, basically. Oh, and also Flex is going to be on the Omaly app, 7 p.m. this evening. Go to social media. You can find all the links that you can talk to Fleck when he's on the way back from Old Trafford too. So big up to everyone. Appreciate everyone that's tuned in. And we'll be back tomorrow morning. I'm out of here.